Robin, as always, I always begin these shows by thanking the guests for coming on, and it's awesome that I can see you as well. So thank you so much for giving me your time today. It's fantastic to have
You
a
are
chat with
very
you.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
I've got to
Me
start.
here, you there.
Oh, I know it's great though, isn't it? You all the way in LA, me sat here in Wales, and we can do this. I'm going to start with a confession because I swapped a couple of messages with you on Skype, and to arrange the time and everything. And I said, I've been a fan since '83. That's wrong, actually, because I checked. I've got a notebook that's 40 years old where I kept all my
Oh,
gigs.
here.
4 years old.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
And I
Wow.
looked, and I can give you the exact date. I've been a fan of yours, and I'm just looking now at it, from the 7th of February, 1982.
Oh, my
And
God.
that is because Grand Prix supported Sammy Hagar at the Manchester Apollo on that date. And that's the first time that I saw you.
Wow.
And
That's unbelievable.
it's great,
That
yeah.
was a tour I remember because just as a little aside, I remember Sammy, we would be rehearsing harmonies and everything in our dressing room before we'd go on. And Sammy almost would always come in and he would, you can stop that shit right now. He was really cool.
Was he?
He was,
Yeah.
he was really, really cool. Yeah.
Oh, because it
Yeah.
was great. Because obviously, I'd got Standing Hampton. I got the album. Or buy
Right.
tickets. I'll go and see Sammy because I lived in England at the time. It was about an hour's drive to Manchester. And always the
Right.
case, with support bands, you think you don't know who the support band's going to be. And of course, you come on. It's Grand Prix. Hadn't heard any of your music before, and you come on. And me and my mate, who we went to see them, these are fucking great. These are great. I did the thing usually right after the gig, go out. Okay, what albums have you got out? Go out and buy the albums, and that was it. So that's it. I've been
Right.
I've been following you since then, Robin. So and it's
Oh,
been
thanks,
it's
Dave.
it's been really
Thanks,
good.
man.
We're going to talk about your upcoming solo album, which is released on the 7th of May from
7th of May.
Frontiers.
Yeah.
I've been listening to it for a couple of weeks. We got sent a review copy of it. Love it, absolutely love it. We'll get onto all of that. And people listening to this, you're all in for a treat when this comes out. But I can't have you on the show and not talk about, like Grand Prix to begin with. Like I said, seeing you in Manchester, the
Right.
Samurai album. I played that to death. I love that
Yeah.
album.
Thank you. I wish, and I've thought a lot about this. I wish I could re-record it. I think I would do a better job of it. You know, because
What did you do?
you change over the years.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds a little pretentious, but I'm definitely a different singer than I was when I recorded that. So I'd love another stab at it. Probably not worth it, but but I'd love another stab at it. You know.
And I pulled it out the other day. I've got the 12-inch single of Shout as well, and that's
Oh
one.
my God.
I think my neighbours heard it just as many times as I did because I'd
That's
crank it
funny.
up loud and
That's
just play it
funny.
continuously. It's
And I used to actually. I think when we toured with Maiden, our management decided that they should have a samurai uh, suit made for me. And Cats was actually in London. The stage show
yeah.
Cats was in London at the time at the Palace, and they actually had the Cats wardrobe people make this whole samurai that I used to wear at the very end of the show. And then Eddie at Hammersmith, Eddie came out in his straitjacket on the Peace of Mind tour, and the whole idea was that I would use the samurai sword and cut the straps, and he'd be chasing me around. Oh yeah, theater, all good
Oh,
theater.
what a
All,
wonderful time. The 80s, I mean, come
oh, it
on.
was great. It was just
Amazing, wasn't it? What was that period like for you with Grand Prix in the early 80s? As you know, you're traveling the world.
we never did travel the world. We only did Europe. I mean, the earlier version of Grand Prix, I think they got into, I think they got into Germany and that sort of stuff when Bernie was singing. Um, but in my time, we only ever did the UK. And then sometime in '83, that whole thing just, imploded and so many different things going on. And it was at the same time that that Schenker came to see Grand Prix at the Red Lion in Fulham, and he came into the pub. We were doing a warm up, I think we were doing a warm up gig for Nils Lofgren tour.
Okay.
And, yeah, and Chris Glenn was with him, and Andy Nye was with him, and Cozy Powell, God rest his soul. And I had a call on the Monday morning. Schenker was in the rehearsal room. I should come down, and I went, I can't. I'm going out on the road. And I remember getting some really bad press out of Kerrang magazine going, who does this Irish upstart think that he is, refusing to join Michael Schenker? Yeah. And I think we repeated kind of the same story 4 years on, because it was about 4 years later that Rudolf Schenker and Michael tracked me down while I was out doing some Far Corporation promo work. And of course, Stairway was, I think it hit number 8 in the UK top 10. You know, even got to perform on Top of the Pops. Yay! I was actually working in set production at the BBC.
Yeah.
Yes, I was actually working at the BBC, you know, as a sort of carpenter, fixer, set production person, because I was a cabinet maker by trade. And yeah, I ended up there, and then I'm on Top of the Pops, sort of watching myself.
That's amazing. It's difficult to explain to the younger generation now how big Top of the Pops was and what a big deal it was to be on there. You know.
Oh my God, dude, you were, yeah, you were making it. You know, a great story. Very quickly to digress, but I remember Tommy Vance. You may remember Tommy Vance.
Yeah.
And he used to do a show for the. I remember we were on his show when we were doing the Unplugged tour, and I remember Tommy telling me that when he was the DJ for Top of the Pops, Led Zeppelin were on it for the first time. Wow. And the program director had never heard of Led Zeppelin, right? Wow. So he came over to Jimmy Page, and he said, "Excuse me, if you could tell Led and the rest of the guys to get their positions ready because we're about to start shooting." So yeah, we thought Robert Plant's name was actually Led and the Zeppelins. Yay!
Yes. What a band.
Right? Yeah. Oh. And anyway, there you have it. A little digression.
Oh, that's great. Oh, no, I love stories like that. I really do. And you mentioned Kerrang. I mean, that was, obviously, it's before what we're doing now. You know, I got all my music news. It was either from Kerrang or from Sounds. And that's the only way you could keep up with everything. You know, it was incredible. So I know reading there when...
Music Connection, not Music Connection. There was another one.
There was NME, but that was more, that wasn't...
Yeah.
But it was more. I mean, Kerrang. Obviously, Kerrang was the big rock one. That was
correct.
That was
oh yeah. Again, if you got Kerrang, you were. Our claim to fame for Kerrang magazine was when Macaulay Schenker toured with Whitesnake, and we played Wembley, right? And I think we did 2 sold-out shows at Wembley, and I remember I had talked to Michael and Rocky, and they were all talking about what they should do with their hair, etc. And I went, well, you can have hair extensions. And Michael is going, well, I don't know what a hair extension. I went, well, I get, they glue this shit in. You can have it as short or as long or whatever color you want it, right? Well, careful what you suggest. Michael had his like down to his waist. Rocky had red, white, and blue. And I remember we got the front page of Kerrang, yes. and it said MSG hit the stage like a hairdresser's nightmare. And I still have that copy. So, there by the gods. Yeah, if you want stories, there's a little one.
The 80s was a great hair decade though, because I remember I mean, I've not had my hair cut for 14 months because of all these different bloody lockdowns. So it's about as long. Well, it's not as long as it was back then. But I remember there seemed to be a phase. I think it was sort of mid to late 80s where going blonde was a thing. And I thought, you know what? I'll have a few blonde streaks put in. So I went to the hairdressers and said, "God, give me some blonde streaks, you know." And because I'd seen, David Coverdale had it done, Joe Elliott had it done. I thought, oh, yeah, I can do that. Thinking I'd just have a few streaks. Oh no, I came out of there and it was just, all of it was blonde. I was like, what the hell is going on? But
hey, I only ever had one tattoo. Look what happened to me. So, yeah.
McAuley Schenker Group, I mean, let's move on to that. Perfect Timing album, especially, is one, I don't know, again, it's one of those cliches. If I had £1 for every time I've played that album, I wouldn't have to work, because it's just one of those albums that's so...
I wish I had £1 for every time you played it.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, it was the first stab. I was drafted in there to. The management company wanted Michael to be more accessible to the U.S. market. They wanted something a little bit more commercial. The 80s, of course, was all about the power ballads. It was all about the hooks, all of that sort of radio-friendly tracks. And, the hardcore MSG fans weren't particularly happy about it, that they thought this guy's going to be in here to change everything. It's important to note Michael wrote the music. I wrote the lyrics and the melodies.
Yeah.
so it's really important to not miss that point,
Definitely.
So it was a great time. We got MTV play, we got VH1 play, we got all the daytime radio. We were P1 on the playlists, it was a good time. It was a good time. I'm not complaining. It was a really good time. And it was a different phase. We'd write songs, we'd produce the songs, we'd give the demos to the label, and they'd go, they don't hear the single. So back to the drawing board until there it is, that's the one. And so not that we were told what to do, but very important. It was seriously important to get the tour. If you didn't have your MTV and your VH1 and your daytime radio, you weren't going on any tour.
Yeah.
And that was the hardcore aspect. And touring was, as it always is, but it was super important, and you needed some sort of chart recognition. And if you didn't have it, pressure's on, boys. And nobody wants the label to say goodbye to them, I mean, now we don't need labels, per se.
It's changed so much.
Funny old world, in it, mate. Karma. But, that was the 80s. That's what it was all about. And grunge kicked in, alternative, and everything became suddenly really dark, and it's my parents' fault, and let's sing about them, and let's change how we sing. And
it was I
love it all.
Yeah,
I love it all. I was listening to the Sex Pistols when I was with Grand Prix, and everybody hated me. And I loved it, and I went, this is great shit. This is just like soccer to mix things up a little bit. You know?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's also music for everybody out there, isn't there? That's for sure. And then, like you said, with MTV was huge then. It was absolutely massive.
When MTV was MTV, then it became what? Something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it became, but it wasn't MTV anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Michael Schenker and myself, we were the very first artist on Headbangers Ball. Did you know that? There's a little bit of trivia.
I didn't. I was watching you both on it, actually. I was flipping through
With
YouTube
Ricky
the
Rockland.
other day.
Yeah, we were the very, very first. Shame for them, but we were the first. Yeah, we were the first.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, because it's Michael there on his flying V playing away, isn't there? And
he said, I play, you talk.
Yeah.
I think he said nothing. He said nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he decided that. I play, you talk.
Oh.
It's the same answer he would give when people go, Michael, how would you rate your brother Rudolph as a guitar player? And he would always say, right there on radio, I am a guitarist. My brother is not. True story. Anyway, let's move on before I say too much.
Oh, because I mean, you've got such a rich history. I mean, playing with Survivor, you're a vocalist for Survivor. If anybody listening doesn't realise that as well, what was it like being the vocalist for them and singing?
Just a fantastic catalog of great songs. They just didn't work very much. Mm-hmm. I used to get bored, really bored, and I was with them for about 6 years. And if you played an hour set, it was an hour set on the money. Yeah. Nobody going over the top, sing one extra song. No, you don't want to do that. And, but great songs, really great songs. We actually wrote a bunch of songs that got recorded, got released. So maybe one day.
Hopefully, fingers
maybe one day when somebody is really bored, they'll go, oh, let's put this out. Yeah.
I thought you fitted in really well with them.
I have no complaints. I'm happy. I've enjoyed everything. I still love what I do, and I know you about it, but the last 7 years up until pandemic, I was working 5 nights a week in Vegas at a classic rock show right in the Rock Vault with almost 1,500 shows under our belt.
Wow, that's great.
That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just awesome. That was just great fun. Different audience every night. So you always had to be on your game. And people just literally from all over the world. I mean, it's amazing how far reaching that show became. And for 6 consecutive years of that 7-year period, Radio the Rock Vault was actually voted best of Las Vegas.
That's great. For
that type of show. Yeah, so, there's good and bad in everything. And we were working, and that's what we do, It was fantastic. Plus the fact we had an amazing roster of players inside the cast.
Yeah.
Always revolving, from Doug Aldrich, Tracy Guns, and Howard Leese and David Mott of Mario Speedwagon, and we had Lou Graham out on the show. We had Mickey Thomas from Starship. We had John Anderson from Yes. We had Jolene Turner in. It was just Paul Rogers even came out to see the show twice when he was playing at Vegas, because Howard Leese, of course, is his musical director and a guitar player for both the Paul Rogers Band and Bad Company. Speaking of Howard, I have a song on the Standing on the Edge that Howard and I wrote.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few connections. I mean, even going back with Grand Prix as well.
Well, that was the because people would say to me always, they would go, are we ever going to see a Grand Prix reunion? And I'm going, probably not. And then I had bumped into Phil Lanzon on our way into France with Schenkerfest, and Uriah Heep were on the bill. And we were talking very freely about a reunion, and he said, we'd have to do it with Bernie, and we'd have to do it this way. And I went, we would definitely have to do it because to cover everything, And logistically, I don't know how we would do it, and would anybody be interested, and if we recorded somebody, who'd put up the money to do that, and yada, yada. So there was no more said about it until I started to record the solo record. And then I thought, this probably might be the only avenue back into a sort of a Grand Prix thing that might possibly happen. So I talked to Phil, and I went, let's write a couple of tunes and introduce a snippet of Grand Prix-ish 30 years or whatever it is later that way. And so we actually wrote 2 songs. The other song wasn't picked because it was a little too similar to other stuff that I'd had.
Okay.
And so they decided, let's pick this one. But Like a Ghost, I think, is a really cool song.
Yeah.
And so it's our little offering of not everybody in Grand Prix, but at least there's a connection. And I wanted to have something on there that had that connection.
It's nice.
So yeah, it's a cool track. My wife loves it. It's her favorite track.
Is it really? Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, how long did it take for the songwriting part of this from beginning to end? And when did the idea originate? And you thought, oh, the solo album was it? Was it?
Frontiers had the idea when we released Black Swan, and everybody loved it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the record company came to me and said, we need to keep the momentum. Let's do a solo record with you. And I went, that's a really bad idea. I don't want to do a solo record. Who wants to listen to a solo record? And what would I do? And they said, no, we need more of you. And I went, I'm just not interested in doing that. I really wasn't. And so we sat on it, and then they came back to it a couple of months later, and they went, have you considered? And I went, yeah, I really considered not doing it. and I didn't know what to do. So that's when I started to reach out to Phil and Howard, and I talked to Tony Franklin, who introduced me to Tommy Denander because of his connection with Jimmy Jamison from Survivor, and because they wanted to sort of stay in that sort of niche, if you will. And then Alessandro De Vecchio, Frontier's own maestro, we talked, and he was always going to be producing it and engineering it. And he said, I'm working with people, and I'll just send you a ton of songs, and we need 12. And you pick what you feel comfortable working with. Mm-hmm. And then we'll take it from there and see what happens after that. And so the process began. I wrote all the lyrics, all the melodies. I learned how to demo my vocals in GarageBand because I don't have a home studio. And I went, well, I have to do now. How am I going to do that? So I learned how to do that, which it's not brain surgery, but just the same if you haven't done it before. Yeah. And so I managed to demo it up really rough and send it back to him. And then we found a studio here that could accommodate me in the midst of all of the restrictions, just one engineer and myself. And he wore a mask. I saw his back the entire time. And we worked 2 days a week, sometimes 3 days a week for 2-hour blocks. And he wore his mask. The only time he took his mask off was for a selfie when we were all done. Yeah. And so when we decided on the songs, I made the arrangements with Andy Zuckerman is his name. And we got a mic set up one Sunday afternoon, and he goes, okay, we'll work Tuesday, Thursdays, and maybe Sundays. And I'd arrive 7 to 9 on a Tuesday, Thursday. I knew he had no idea what we were doing because he hadn't heard anything. Mm-hmm. And then we sent him the stems because Alessandro lives in Italy because of lockdown. He couldn't come back in because he lives in Florida also. And so he was stuck there, and he had planned to Zoom in on every recording session. Of course, when I would start recording at 7 o'clock in the evening, it's like, what? Some ungodly hour and 9 hours, I think, right? 9 hours in Italy from here, something like that. So it'd be like 4 o'clock in the morning with him, and I went, I'm not Zooming with him at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I kind of had written everything. He had heard everything, and I went, I'm just going to record. I'll do my own vocals, my own backing vocals, and then we'll send the tracks in and chip away at it from there. He didn't change anything. He kept every single thing that I did. And the only thing he added was he stuck some extra backing vocals on the last track, was Running Out of Time. And then he brought in just great musicians, especially in that young guitar player, Andrea Cerveso, who's everybody keeps comparing him now to George Lynch at this. In fact, when Standing on the Edge came out as a single, they were going, is this a Dokken track? And then when we just put out Say Goodbye, just came out on Good Friday
Yeah.
as the second track. And the same thing, they're going, love this George Lynch guitar player. And I went, really? Come on, guys. In fact, a little trivia again. I was talking to Jeff Pilson about, because we're supposed to start writing the new Black Swan record this week. And Jeff says, George called me. And he goes, did you do this new McAuley record? Sounds just like Dokken. And he said, no, I did not do it. And I can tell you that I have not listened to a great deal of Dokken. So if it sounded like it, it sounded like it. So yeah, he's just a great guitar player. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun just to see how people react to something that I would do on a solo level, you know.
Well, I've been listening to it for a couple of weeks, and I love it. And across the board, I mean, you look online, and so many people are saying, because your voice is one of the best voices out there, and continues to be. It's you've been, like I say, I've been into rock music. I was 1979 when I got into rock music, and I said it was 82 when I became a fan of yours. You has been truly, Robin, one of my favourite voices to listen to in the last almost 4 years.
Thank you.
And I mean, how do you still do it? I've talked to a lot of vocalists, a lot of musicians, guitar player. You can get a new guitar vocalist. You've really got to look after your voice. Is there anything special that you do that you've still got such a great, voice? You can still hit the notes and put it out there.
I'm paranoid about it because it's my instrument.
Mm.
I'm very, very critical. When I started to record Standing on the Edge, I remember I went to Andy and I came in and we were all ready to go. And I think I sang like a verse and a half of something. And I went, it's not there. I'm out of here. And I just left. I think he was going, shit, doesn't like the place. What's going on? So I called him and I was, it's not you. It's just, had not been singing for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. since this whole crazy crap started. Yeah. And so I needed to find my center again. And by the time this was like a Tuesday, by the time Thursday came around, mentally I had re-prepared myself. Mm-hmm. And it's just I just got it, just went for it. And then it all sort of came back in. I have a technique that works for me, and something that I've really worked hard and developed over the years, that, it's important to sing and not shout.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can be powerful without screaming your head off, because I'm not into screaming, I like quality. I like tone. Mm-hmm. I like pitch. I don't want to be going in and we'll fix it in there. I don't want any of that stuff, because it has to sound true. You can tell when something's auto-tuned. You can hear it, it's like Pinky and Perky, and whoever they are. And so I take great care of it. When I know I'm singing, I hardly talk to anybody for the entire day.
Yeah.
And that's just me. When I do the same when I'm on tour, as soon as the show is done, I'm out of there. Yeah. I'm gone. Because I have to do a show tomorrow night and tomorrow night and tomorrow night. And you have enough experience in the business that who does everybody look to when you walk out there? The singer. Mm-hmm. It sucks, man. Well, if singer's out partying, on down, dude, it's, the show is numero uno. Yeah. It's the single most important thing that goes on for a concert. And it's not about the singer. It's about the whole team. Everybody needs to be moving in synchronicity. It's really important. And the more you are, better the show comes across. Just, and I immediately think, Maiden, they come out. It's like, it's just, it's it looks like a big show, but it's systematic. There's wheels moving, and they're moving very easily and freely. And I'm all about entertainment. I love the show aspect. Just love it. I just absolutely love it. For me, if there's no entertainment, there's no show.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. Entertain me.
Yeah.
I want to leave here going, I want to be gasping. I want to go, that was great. And it's important because you pay your money, and I'm the biggest fan. I'm the biggest fan. I just impressed me. I just want to leave there absolutely gasping for air. I just want to feel that I've been to a show. And I think everybody deserves that. And as an artist, singer, guitar player, drummer, bass player, that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to be at your best and to give your best, because I think that's what people expect. Anything less, it's just not working. And people get sick. Touring is a hospital on four wheels, because there's so many different elements. You're up against all sorts of, if you're flying, if you're, it's just, and there's the hot and the cold. And the tour bus is the worst place ever. It's worse than a plane, because it's everybody confined.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, get me out of here. And it's not been a prima donna, but if you care about the show, you care about your performance. If you care, a lot of people don't give a shit. Really, it's good. Nobody knows the difference. Yeah, they do. I know the difference, and as long as I know, that's what's important for me. So, just to finish, I think for me, there has to be a very high level of dignity involved. And if I started reading stuff like people, this dude needs to pack this up, man, I'm gone. Because I see those reports about a lot of singers.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, dude, I would hate for people to say that about me. Maybe they do, and I'm not reading it. Maybe I just turn the page quickly. But that's really important. That's very important to me. So as long as people like it, I'll keep doing it. And when I don't, I'll know that it's time to sign off.
Well, I have my fingers crossed that I get to see you again over here in the UK. Hopefully even here in North Wales, because to see you,
I hope so too. That
would be great if we could do that. And again, you've got new music coming out. You've got your solo album. You said you're working on more Black Swan.
Yes, more Black Swan, and I can't wait. May 7th. Say Goodbye just came out Friday, and there will be another single with the drop date of the album. And I hope people listen to it and go, "This is good. I like it."
Yeah.
So give it a like, give it a listen, play it loud, as I always say, and then repeat.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing, Robin. Like I said, I've been a fan for almost 40 years, and the more music you keep putting out is great, and I'll just keep buying it and keep listening to it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.